Hello and welcome to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name's Chris Fletcher and this is season 12. Tech on Toast podcast is serving up fresh chats with the sharpest minds in hospitality and tech. If you're looking to level up your ops, streamline your service, or just sprinkle a little tech magic into your business, you've come to the right place. And guess what? Our partners Lightspeed are back this season to look after us. They're the EPOS and payments platform helping over 165,000 businesses. Businesses such as Big Mama, Mildred's, Mallow, and Cubit House. They'll help you scale at, you guessed it, the speed of light. See what I did there? With real-time insights, faster transactions, and slick integrations with people like OpenTable, Xero, Muse, and many more, Lightspeed's unified platform is built to boost your performance and turn your tables quicker than you can say flat white, extra hot. So, if you need fast funding, check out Lightspeed Capital. No hidden fees, no interest charges, just smart support when you need it. If you're curious about all of this, just head over to lightspeed.co.uk/tech-on-toast and book yourself a free demo. You won't regret it. Now, enough of that. Ready for the next episode? Let's go.
That's been our inspiration. We've got the workforce management right, get the HR right, get all that performance stuff, and then that's your package for keeping your people right.
We have been very focused on HR in the last while, and that's because the industry really requires it.
Yeah, so it's about, what do you say, stick to your knitting?
Yeah, stick to your knitting. Yeah, be good at what you're good at.
There's a lot that can be done as long as we make sure we target the right solution to the right problem.
Technology should allow people do what they're really good at.
All of a sudden their role becomes much more a people motivational engagement role rather than the data collection.
Instead of it being on these really mundane admin tasks, is all about people. And I think that's where AI can help us.
No, I look at AI, even for myself, I think it's a really smart intern who's sitting on your shoulder who answers the questions very quickly. But that's not always right, and it won't always be right. It's only looking at the past. It can only look at the past.
No. Trust in my data is actually telling me the truth.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
If you don't have clean data, that's a big issue, right?
It's a huge issue, and we're actually investing in that at the moment.
Let the humans do what humans are good at.
Welcome to the next episode of Tech on Toast podcast, and today I'm delighted to be joined by an old friend and a new friend, I think. So ladies first, Emily, nice to meet you. Emily, who are you and what do you do at Bizimply?
Hi, yeah, it's really nice to meet you. Good to be here. So I'm Emily Kane. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Bizimply. I've been at Bizimply for coming up to a year now. So I manage all things product and technology, bringing the two together and trying to deliver on lots of what our customer needs, but also bringing us into the future as well with AI.
Yeah, you're the one who has to make it happen, right?
Got to make it happen. Yeah,
that's very cool. And you get to work with this lovely man, who I've known for a few years now. Who are you, sir? What do you do?
I'm Conor Shaw. I'm CEO.
Just the
Bizimply.
CEO.
I'm CEO of Bizimply. Yeah, I was delighted to take on CEO coming up on maybe 8.5 years ago. From Gerard, who's still with us. Gerard is the founder and still probably our inspiration as his passion for all things hospitality and making sure we have the right people in the right place at the right time.
And for anybody who doesn't know about Bizimply, you both have a certain accent that will give away where you guys were born. Yeah. Whereabouts are you based?
We're based in Dublin, although our business is probably 50-50 now, UK and Ireland. But we originated just within a stone's throw of the Guinness Brewery. When we opened the doors of the office at certain times of the day, you can smell the Guinness brewing.
It is delicious.
Which is I
think you have the best head office in Britain. Is this right?
we probably have. Yeah, it's certainly in a great location, and it's a stone's throw from the city centre as well. So it's nice and easy to get to. But we're a significant part of the team. We've gone regional. Really, our view is that we should put our people where our customers are. So we've somebody in Liverpool, Newcastle, Hull, Manchester, even in Cornwall, Southampton, London, of course. And we're actively looking for people now to cover extended territories in the Southwest and Midlands and the Southeast.
Southwest the best. That's where I'm based.
You would say that.
and before I get into your background, which might be lengthy, but
am I that old?
Yeah. Emily, tell us a little bit about, because you've been at Bizimply a year. What prior to that, what were you doing?
Yeah, so I've had quite a varied career actually. I started off as an archaeologist, but we won't get into that.
Oh, that's what I want to get into, but it's not the right podcast, is it? So.
No. But I've been working in product and technology for about 16 years at this stage, or coming close to it. I've had all sorts of roles, from quality assurance to working with data engineering teams. That's kind of my passion, is that data side. There's just so much that we can get out of data, and it's only becoming more important than it ever has. And then I moved on to product as well. So yeah, very varied career. Working in different types of industries, anything from mobile top-up, international mobile top-up, to working for a car insurance company, and now here I am at Bizimply. So, very varied.
Very different to the car insurance company. What about you, Conor? What's your varied past? Where is it?
Well, as somebody once said to me recently, I have a great future behind me. So I've been kind of a software geek, I suppose, for years. I was an engineer, and then I spent time with Philips Semiconductors, Oracle, SAP, and my last more corporate role, if you like, was I ran EMEA for Marketo, which was great, actually, really, really good fun. We got sold to Vista Equity, and then I started looking for something different to do and interesting to do, and I thought, let's get involved in an Irish startup. And so Gerard and myself found each other, and
I'd love to know how that happened.
Yeah, well, that's true. Gerard and we had just taken on financing from Causeway Capital, who've been fantastic supporters of us all the way through the years. And Gerard wanted to concentrate more on marketing and the product and how we go about what we do. And so I came in as CEO. The company was only 2 years old, only beginning to start in the UK, only beginning to really understand its market and product. And it's been an incredible journey ever since. Loving it. Absolutely loving it.
I bet. And I think particularly in the HR stack world, and we'll ask you this question actually, but particularly in that product, I feel like it was under-resourced, I suppose, or is that the right word? Look at POS and how much that's moved forward, and CRMs and all, and marketing have had their day, operations have had their day, but actually from the HR workforce standpoint, I think it's a huge challenge, right, for everyone. Is that what you're seeing in people side? I'm guessing you're getting asked a lot about changing product or using AI to kind of influence what you're doing. Are you seeing a bit of a movement in this part of the category?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at even Bizimply, it being very much driven by the workforce management side, that's very operational, very schedule based. We have been very focused on HR in the last while, and that's because the industry really requires it. It's not just about traditional HR in disciplinaries and probations and so on. It's actually how performance within teams can help improve revenue and improve sales and drive growth within businesses. So it's actually been able to marry the two. They're very much two sides of the same coin.
I think one of the things that we were talking about last time I spoke to you, letting managers manage was always an interesting phrase that I hear, actually, that being able to, the feedback from the ground, I suppose, from your current customers. And you have quite a swell, right, don't you? It's particularly in Ireland when you first started.
We've a good spread. Like, we've probably over 1,300 businesses at this stage using product. Over 100,000 people are clocking in and clocking out, and that's at the very basic level. But it's interesting, the point about HR. 70% of people in the world are effectively employed on a shift type basis, but yet the majority of HR software is assuming that people are, in the old parlance, white collar workers, or they have a company email address, they have a company given laptop. So actually an awful lot of the software is ill serves the shift type worker, and particularly in hospitality, where you may not even see your boss. You could be working all week long and not see your boss because they're working different shifts and things like that. So actually that was the whole thing, and it was really interesting. People ask me, what's been the inspiration of the product? Yes, once we had got past Gerard's initial ideas and so on, actually our customers have been, and customers told us, look, we love your workforce management. We can roster, you can get your time in attendance, you can get your time cards, you can get your time off, all that kind of stuff, managed. But you're the system of record for my employees, and I now need to be compliant with HMRC. I need to do all of these other things. I need to make sure I keep secure records, GDPR compliant. There's a whole lot of other stuff that the HR software is quite good at for the office workers, but brutal at for your more casual, shift-based workers. So that's been our inspiration. We've got the workforce management right. get the HR right, get all that performance stuff, and then that's your package for keeping your people right. Very much saying, and our belief is that the tech landscape has to be stick to your knitting, be really, really good at what you're good at, and work with the others who are good. So we don't have a native payroll. Why? Because payroll's a different job.
Yeah.
And the people who use payroll and what they want out of it is different. Now, we have got really good reports, we've really good interfaces with all the payroll guys, but that's a special job, if you like. So I think these sort of very thin veneers that sort of say, oh, we look after everything for you, you will very quickly fall foul of something. And one of the points about the rosters and the scheduling is like the complexity about different overtime rates, different types of payment. How do you technology should allow people do what they're really good at. So this is why we say let the managers manage. So often you see somebody who's a really good bartender, really good waiter, really good chef, and they get made head chef or head barman or whatever, and all of a sudden they're behind, they're filling in spreadsheets. And sorry, that's complete bullshit. Excuse me. They should be, what they're really good at is being out front. And we give them the technology and say, we'll give you the tool that'll make you be what you're really good at. And that's all you want to be. Just make sure that they can be. We're pretty good at building software. So we're not going to try to mix a cocktail. I'd prefer to be on the receiving end of that, Or cook a steak. Well, I'm okay on the steak and the barbecue, actually, I have to say.
And it's still, I suppose, as I mentioned before, HR and staffing generally is still, I would say, you've got food costs, labour costs are the two main drivers of anything in a restaurant. It's still the number one headache. And in terms of what you're seeing through the data, particularly, I'm interested in both sides, actually, from an operational sense and from a product sense. What do you think, is there some improvement coming down the line? Is there some hope for the operators in terms of using technology to advance what they're doing? Or is it still a fairly long journey, do you think, in terms of getting product out there to help them?
Oh, no, absolutely. It's not a long journey. I think AI has definitely changed a lot in terms of that landscape. But it's also, it's actually understanding what is needed. So when you look at the kind of the shift workers that Conor talks about there are so many different types. There's loads of different cohorts and they all have different expectations and needs. So it's being able to address that in a configurable way that allows everybody get what they need. So that's the bigger challenge rather than the technology itself. Because in a lot of cases, and what we're doing now and we're investing heavily in is on the HR side over the next 6 months or so. So we're very much focused on performance and the ability to retain staff and to make sure that we are compliant and make it so visible to businesses as well. So they're not having to reactively look at our system and see that they've got to deal with the situation within a period of time. Instead, we want to help surface these metrics and these details and these insights for them to be able to go about their day-to-day business, to be able to support their labor as well as increasing revenue as well. So there's a lot that can be done as long as we make sure we target the right solution to the right problem. And I think that's the bigger challenge.
And that's the issue, isn't it? I think the crux of it is that, and also when we work with operators, they're just so time poor. They don't have much time to decipher reporting. They don't have much time to kind of pull apart results or whatever it might be. And often it's quite funny when we talk to them, we're like, well, why aren't you interested in your tech? And like, well, we haven't got, we just I've got to get the doors open, let alone worry about what it's doing. So from your side, from running the whole business, is it quite a challenge? Because we find it a challenge. I mean, operators will agree with us to get in front of them and talk to them properly and explain what could be possible. But are you finding that a challenge as well still?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is you have to understand what's the problem that's actually really going to move the needle.
Yeah. And
often the stated problem or the one that you'd love them to have isn't the problem that they perceive they have, and you're dead right. Cost, and it isn't so much actually, it's actually understanding the cost and what's driving that cost, and where's the cost control. Like, can I save by having less people, or actually can I make more by having more people at certain times and having that subtle difference? And then the actual individual performance of the people, like, a certain server is much better at upselling the wine and gets a better tip and gets a better rating afterwards. Sometimes it's actually just understanding it. Now, intuitively, the great managers kind of know that. But now we can start to codify that and then provide that information so that actually it's bubbling up faster and so you get a quicker result. But then also, like, the staff members themselves, they want to feel that they've got some skin in the game, if you like. And I think operators are beginning to shift from saying, actually, if I engage people really, really well, they'll stick with me. They'll represent me well. Like, there's an illusion of control, particularly multi-site operators. You have an illusion of control, and you have an illusion that technology will give you that control. No, it won't. Technology will give you the tools that people are comfortable to do their jobs well, and then you've got a successful business.
I think that's super interesting, that the illusion of control. I'm going to write that one down because actually the reality, having run 90 sites at one point with a bunch of kids underneath me helping me. The reality was that the tech, even back then, right, the reporting would tell me so much, but nothing beat being in the site, looking in the whites of their eyes, understanding what was going on, seeing what was happening, and then understanding how we need to pull in the levers to help it.
But one of the key things is, I want to know when I'm working, and I want to have a little bit of notice on, or I want to have notice on that, 2 to 3 weeks, that will give me a fair idea of when I'm likely to be working. And that I'm more likely to stick with somebody who's given me a fair crack of the whip, given me the hours that I need to live and earn, but also giving me the notice so that I can plan things. Like, even if it's I need to plan to go to the dentist, so I won't be working on Tuesday afternoon, and suddenly, by the way, can you work on Monday? By the way, I put you down to work tomorrow afternoon. Well, that's a bit of a mess. And then, it's only planning. And the beauty of it is, we've seen it, and I saw some stats, not just from us, from one of our competitors, that the people but it is true. The managers who sit down and think about their roster and build out those shifts and build a rota that suits everybody with a bit of notice have a much higher retention rate, much less no-shows, much less sick days, a happier workforce. They're all the ingredients that you need for a great operation. And you can see it yourself in brands. Like, you go into the, insert name of franchise brand on Oxford Street and go into the same one on Regent Street, and sometimes you can say this place feels different than the other one. That's down to the manager and the happiness of the people. That's going to be, I know when I'm working, I know how much I'm going to do, I know what I'm going to be asked to do, and there's not going to be no panics. Now, if you do that, you now have permission to have the odd panic. Most people are reasonable if you're reasonable to them. So you can have the panic. Mary has rang in sick. Can you do tomorrow? Yes, I can do tomorrow, boss.
And there's no surprise, right? The best brands have the best loyalty or the best retention.
Of course they do.
And people always question, but that's because... No, that's because they're the best. If you tend to be good at what you do, people hang around a bit longer.
Yeah.
And it's hospitality, right? No one hangs around forever. And I was wondering, Emily, in that sense, from a product standpoint, where my son is... Oh, God, how old is he? 18. So he's at Cardiff doing law, but he's also got a part-time job at Peter Pilgrim, so he works in there. And they've just changed HR supplier, scheduling supplier. And he was not moaning, but he was talking to me the other day. He's going, I can't get to my rota, I can't get to this, I can't get to that. Because he was used to what it was previously, where it was on one page and he could touch it all. How much of that feedback is bubbling up to you when it comes to building? Because I think the more and more these kids grow up into the industry, and the more they've grown up with an iPhone in their hand, they're kind of very impatient.
Yeah.
Is that something you're seeing more of when you're getting your feedback from Mike and the team?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, when you strip it back, like, you look at the sheer amount of information and data that absolutely everybody has these days, from 24/7 news cycles to just being on TikTok, 8 hours a day, at a minimum. There is so much there. And it's being able to distill what's important and what's not. And that's what we need to be focusing on. So that's the type of thing. We have a wealth of data, anything from scheduling data to onboarding and, their profile data, the type of person they are as an employee, to everything in between. When they're working and so on, when they're taking holidays. And it's about not just having that and surfacing it as data points for people then to actually start asking questions, because you're just adding to the mental noise and the operation, or the mental load and the operational noise. That's just what you're doing. So what AI can do, and what we're trying to work towards now, and what we are working towards, is creating a narrative, and what we want to do is be able to answer questions before they're even asked. It's like, what do you, as any persona within a business, whether it's in a HR capacity, as an employee either, it's what do you need to see? What do you care about? And we think about what social media is trying to do now. It's just trying to show you what you care about. And so this is the same idea. So remove the noise, take away instead of having a dashboard with 100 different charts on it that, like, what does it actually tell you?
Yeah.
It's actually what are the top 3 things that you need to know at this given moment? And for an employee, that could be, I worked 8 hours this week and I'm going to get, £25 for that, and if I work
that's
another,
all he cares about.
and that's literally all they
What are
care
you
about.
giving me? Yeah.
And when am I am I getting tips with that, or how much holidays have I accrued because I want to take a week off in 3 weeks' time? That kind of thing. That's all they care about. And then when you kind of go up the layers into a head office, what's the most important thing there for them? Well, what's compliance like as a business? Are we hitting, do we have all of our employees with a valid visa? Is there any visas now that are coming to an expiry date, and then we need to solve for that? And those things take time to also get. So you need to factor that in, 3-4 months in advance, and make sure that the right people are dealing with it at the right time. And those are the things. I don't think you need to surface all the wonderful data, although it's nice to see all of that. Me as a HR manager, I'm sure, couldn't care less that 25 people have their visas all intact. They only really care about the ones that aren't, because they're the ones that they need to action. So that's what we're focusing on, are the things that we need to action and the things that we need to deal with at any given point. So that's the focus for us.
And I think that leads us nicely into AI, probably, because I bet a lot of that is not possible, or wouldn't have been possible even 12 months ago, in terms of the speed of getting to it. And Conor, you are an early adopter of Perplexity. Is that
Yes.
right? Yes. So I remember sitting with Conor probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
We were having lunch somewhere or dinner somewhere. We were at networking doing, that's all we do, we just eat lunch and hang out with people.
Yeah.
But you were on Perplexity, and you were saying, oh, look at this, I can surface all this stuff. And Claude recently, I've noticed probably the last 12 weeks, more than anything. Wow. I mean, it's a real game changer. And I know you guys are probably talking about it internally a lot, and how it's speeding up stuff. But it is fascinating. How much is that putting you under pressure as a CEO of a tech business? I don't know if pressure's a bad thing, as in, or how much is it giving you urgency to think, wow, look what is possible potentially?
I feel a little bit like the farmer.
I knew you had an analogy.
Yeah, no, I feel a bit like the farmer back in the sort of 6th or 7th century, when some bright spark came along with this thing called the plough. And you're going to have to say, my God, how am I going to deal with this now? I'm going to have to let all the guys that dig the fields go, because I can just do this myself with an oxen. And it feels, but actually
it's all our younger people.
No, and I'm going to, like you can throw out the printing press, we can throw out the wheel, we can throw... AI is just another technology.
Yeah.
The internet came along, was going to change the world, and it did.
Yeah.
But guess what? We have more employment now than we ever did. Different types of jobs, like who ever heard of a content moderator 25 years ago? But guess what? It's now a thing. So I kind of guess I'm so excited by this, because I think it's just going to make us all more efficient and better. And what it's going to do is it's going to make sure that the people, the one thing that AI, it sort of says it's going to do, but going into a bar and a barman saying, what would you like, Chris? And pulling a pint and having a little chat, how are you today? That's what really matters.
Yeah.
And if we can make sure that more of that happens, because some of the drudgery is being done by technology, well, isn't that a wonderful world, not a scary world? And I think that's what our concentration on AI, and Emily will talk to you about how we're going to do this. What we're going to do is all of our AI investments will make sure that we put the human at the center of it, so that the human is the human who is either the employee at the back end of a holiday request that may well be being sorted out by AI, or a manager who's at the back end of a performance conversation, or a HR person who's trying to understand how many people are likely to be cause of compliant issues with fees. The AI is just going to enhance their life and make them really, really good at what they're really, really good at. And the perplexity thing, I'm spending less time trawling the
perplexity or less time on them.
Yeah, I know. I now have about 6 of them. And Claude is one of them. Depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, it does.
But it's making me better
Yeah.
at what I enjoy and what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to do. And
Yep.
that's what we're building.
No, and I was sitting
product.
in a restaurant the other day with an MD of some sort. We were talking, and I said, AI's not going to... We were watching a brilliant girl serving a table in front of us. They were laughing, joking, and she had some time at the table, and they were like... Obviously, she had a decent handheld POS in her hand, and all those bells and whistles were happening, but nothing could beat her, right? And I just said to him, AI's never going to touch this. In fact, I think the opposite might happen, that in-person becomes... almost like after the pandemic becomes more important, because people are doing work so quick in terms of admin that actually all of a sudden everyone's going to hang out a bit more. I'm making that up.
Well, it's one of the reasons actually why we've deployed our sales force into the regions, into territories. Now, I made my career by effectively doing more and more online sales, but I'm actually a great believer now in actually I haven't gone complete full circle, because I think you can still be incredibly efficient. But there's efficiency and effectiveness, and human contact is going to be good. There was a great ad a couple of years ago, Orange, I think Telecom had it, where they talked about the future and all that kind of stuff. And then it just showed a lot of people coming out of a cinema having had a shared experience. Yeah. And we see it a bit differently. I think you may remember.
We had very quickly, we had a dinner the other week with Sky, the guys from Sky. And bunch of people around the table. It was just a great night. I don't even know if anyone talked about, obviously it's a dinner, we were introducing Sky to all these customers, but actually no one did that. Everyone just hung out for the night. And I remember the day after, the guy from Sky going, I've never enjoyed something so much in ages, because it didn't have to do his job. It just happened because everyone was there kind of saying, what do you do? And what do you, and that, it sounds really obvious, but that has almost been minimalized or marginalized a little bit over the last few years, because people are so obsessed with AI building all these bots and building all these agents. But actually the reality is those agents will empower those people to go out and do that properly. So it says here you're jumping in with 2 feet. I'm guessing he's got 1 foot and you're in. The other 2 are yours.
So we don't know where you got that from. But Emily is going to deal with the jumping in with 2 feet, because actually I think we've been in the swimming pool for a long time.
Right.
We've been using a lot of the background technology since the start, like 10 years ago.
Because you're an advocate, right? And you've been for a while, And I think the difference is now the building elements, the fact that I can build product, not your product, but I can build a product now, or anyone like me can go out on Lovable or something like that and build something. Deploying it slightly different, but actually building an idea is fascinating, right? For what it's going to do to the world in good and bad ways or whatever. But from your point of view, what does it mean to you guys? Because obviously Conor outlined his kind of expectations of it, but what does it look like in terms of actually doing it?
Yeah, well, like,
no offense.
even from an operational point of view from my side, I mean, I've got 3 different big teams, and they're all using different AI tools. You've got one team using Claude, another using Copilot, and another one using Cursor, and they all have value. I mean, they're all very similar, and they leapfrog each other every 6 months, because one just gets that little bit better. But what's so amazing is how exciting it is to see this constant progression, with all of these tools. Like, it's not stopping. We're on a train now. This is going forever. We're not going to get off this. But even just to come back to what you said there as well, which is, it's not going to replace jobs. It will in some ways, but I think it augments it. I don't think, have recognized the sheer amount of work that has increased over the last 20, 30 years. And we wouldn't have even thought of that 150 years ago, what we could be doing right now. And I don't think we have been able to address that from an operational point of view, whereas AI now is going to be able to do that. And I think that's what's going to make the difference. So you look at, like, we're building and completing our demand planning work right now, and that's all intelligent AI driven and using algorithms. And what do you want that for? Like, obviously we want to see, or forecast our sales and revenue in the future, as a business, or the type of labor that we will need for any of that. But ultimately we want to be able to like what's the goal of that? It's actually to do things like schedule or automate your scheduling, so you don't have to sit there as a manager like thinking about who do I have, what skill set do I need, like at what time do I have that person in for versus somebody else. And you could have 4 baristas that you could pick from, but if you have an intelligent system that tells you, well, okay, you've got 4 of them there and you only need 1 at this given time, but I can tell you a little bit more rich information about each of these performance wise, how long have they've been working, without you as that individual having to think about that, and deep dive into it. So imagine we had that type of system that was doing that for you. And I mean, it's something that we're building right now.
I think that's fascinating. Right, so as I said, I didn't introduce myself properly because we never met before, but I spent a lot of time, hence the look, 25 years in the industry, and when I left, I took a lot of that experience with me, and I took a lot of that gut feeling about this is going to happen today, and I was often right because I've been doing it for a long time.
Of course.
But I think what you guys are now going to do, and it's now going to happen for everybody, is that my experience will remain, because you're going to learn off what I was doing. I'm going to feed into something that's going to, and all of a sudden you'll probably know more. I don't want to make every area manager redundant, but all of a sudden their role becomes much more a people motivational engagement role rather than the data collection. And I just think that's fascinating that you're going to own all of that data and that experience.
Yeah, and it does come down to the data. And when you look at LLMs and what they're there to do, you've got what you're trying to do is narrow the gap between what you predict or what you forecast with the actual reality of it, and then you get to something that is real and accurate. And it is what you say, like you're basically, it's almost like a folklore. You're bringing that with you.
You don't know, man. You weren't there. That's my favorite.
Exactly. It's like generation to generation. Now AI is going to be able to do that. And for that example of the area manager, I think one of the biggest issues is actually, especially these days, the level of stress and the anxiety that people feel. That's what people need to start dealing with now. It's like, how do we address that and make it much easier for people to work in any given environment and to retain those people? And the focus, instead of it being on these really mundane admin tasks, is all about people. And I think that's where AI can help us, is bringing us back to people as opposed to away from them.
Yeah, and I think that's I think trust, you mentioned trust about an accuracy there, are probably 2 of the biggest things that we struggle with when we're talking to, particularly at the moment, because I feel like we're at the start of this rocket ship going off. Even though it's been around for a couple of years, I feel like the last 6 months, all of a sudden, everyone's taking notice. Like the operators are asking us now, we need AI. That is the request we get. Yeah. We need AI. What does that mean? You don't need AI. You just need a good product.
It will do the drudgery to enable the human being at the top to say, but what it doesn't know is, I know there's roadworks going to be on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly that.
So it is, and it's that human intervention. I look at AI, even for myself. I think it's a really smart intern who's sitting on your shoulder, who answers the questions very quickly. But that's not always right, and it won't always be right. It's only looking at the past. It can only look at the past, and it's very clever modeling and all that kind of stuff. But it can only look at the past. Yeah. Humans can imagine the future. Now, maybe, and there's talk about they can imagine, but if it's imagining, you wonder what it's basing it on. Most of us, we will build our imagination based on our own experiences and our own thoughts. And that's I think the key thing is we have to make sure the human stays within the decision-making process.
Yeah, and
it just makes life easier.
And particularly in forecasting, I think sometimes you've got to let it run, right? With some of the GMs I've worked with in the past, and this was back to, we used to have par level sheets, which were like Excel sheets with how many bits of ravioli we'd have to have ready every day, or tiramisu or whatever. And I remember and we had this, like, it was automated through Cognos. I remember Cognos. Yeah. So, sorry, young people. And Cognos would tell us we need this much today, and it would freak them out. Like, they'd come in, the number would be up in the morning, they're like, no way, we're not going to do that. It's like, well, if you don't do it, then we'll never know if it was right, and then we'll just be in this self-fulfilling prophecy of never being right. But I think there's a big leap to take, potentially, from a lot of people. And it's not about not understanding tech. I'm not belittling people. It's that trust in my data is actually telling me the truth. And
absolutely.
if you don't have clean data, that's a big issue, right?
It's a huge issue. And we're actually investing in that at the moment. Like, we've got a big team that, as far as I'm concerned, you don't release anything or you don't bring anything to the marketplace that you cannot trust. So it has to be, the data has to be really solid, it has to be really clean, has to be really accessible, and it needs to make sense. It needs to make sense to the person who is reading it. Now, not that there's necessarily following of 100% expectation of what the customer thinks they're going to see, but at least it makes sense to them and that they know that they can trust this. Look, it's the same for all of us, whether you're a techie or you're not. We've all seen products where, particularly chatbots on websites, that it's really just a small decision tree. It's not AI. It hasn't been AI. What is now here is AI, and it's different. When you look at like Gemini, Google's Gemini, when that came out first, it was a laughing stock. Nobody wanted to use it, and they thought, what was Google thinking? We're now a year and a half later, 2 years later, it is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal tool.
It's probably number one, they were saying.
But you know what? In 6 months' time, you'll see ChatGPT come again. It's. I don't think we realize where we are right now in terms of AI. Look, we had predictive ML AI, 2 decades ago, and it was really, really solid, but people weren't using it in the way that we see, like the artificial intelligent robot. That's what we're talking about right now compared to what it used to be. So it's a very, very different landscape that we're in. And so it is constantly evolving, and it is getting better all the time. So while people don't necessarily trust it now, they will start to see the benefits as we go forward from this day on. That's the way it is.
And I think it's interesting that, Conor, were you in Perplexity, were you using it in your normal life or were you using it just for work? Or a bit of both?
Yeah. Sorry, my wife gives out hell to me. I'm watching TV and we're watching. What was she in before? And I'm on it, and I'm working out what they were in before, when they're what age is she? She looks older than I thought.
No way, she's not 60.
Boom, it's done. Now, Google used to do that for us. Like
that's what I'm saying. I think
it's so quick.
The tail's wagging the dog a little bit because everyone adapted OpenAI or ChatGPT when it first came, right? And taking pictures of plants, how do I water this? And just believing it, right? Straight off the bat. All right, pour this acid on top of that plant. Apparently it works quite well. But I think it's interesting that commerce or business is kind of, particularly in tech serving employees, has come almost secondary. I know there's automation always been in there in the product, but it's almost like you've got these guys thinking they understand, like you're saying, they understand AI, but actually the reality is it's been in your product for years in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is developing and advancing. I think it's just interesting that for the first time ever, the public almost have a really solid understanding, have a use case for it in their own lives, but maybe not professionally yet.
But it's interesting you say that, because it is also something, and we talked about this earlier a little bit. We're re-looking at our user interface and how the product actually looks and feels, because we've got an awful lot of positive vibes about it, and it is one of our key things. We want the product to be I think the fancy expression is prosumer. The people have to use it, feel. You're up against, how easy is it to use Uber? How easy is it to use Uber Eats? How easy is it? That they're the things that you're expecting. My banking app. They're the things you're up against in terms of how easy is it for me to review my schedule? How is it for me to build my schedule?
That's my son's example, right? He's working with the product that's had millions invested into it, right? And the slight change that doesn't give him pay slip, sickness, and schedule on one page. He was like, it doesn't work.
But that's it. No, but that's exactly it. And there has to be that and that interface has to learn itself to sort of say, it's kind of interesting. I noticed that Chris always comes in on this page, so actually I'll just show him that page first from the start, so that you get that interactive, and then people will start to use it. And they want less apps, but they want apps that do exactly what it says.
I think a bit like AI, right? That you mentioned, there's five or six different AIs you can use for different things. And I think people are the same with apps, right? When I look at my app usage on my phone, I think I use 12% of my total. I've got like 700 apps on my phone probably, because I'm an old man. But I've probably used like 6% of them.
Your Rota app, right? Every employee will go into their Rota app
because
every day. Our stats are like 2, 3, 4 times a day people are in and out of their Rota app. Now, the app that the coffee machine gives you, you'll forget the passport. You won't be in that. But what we're looking at is, and this is why we would sort of see ourselves as, to a certain extent, the center of an ecosystem that sort of says, well, why wouldn't you just have a link into the coffee machine app that it just knows who you are and just sort of says, so for the odd time that you need to go in, or your fridge gives you an alert to say...
Could it prompt you? Say,
your,
hey, you
that's
haven't
exactly
used
it.
the machine for a while.
Or you haven't...
It's
worth it. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So we're looking at an operations hub, which will be something new.
That's
so
so
that
cool.
it goes beyond... But that's down at the people level.
Yeah.
You know, again, we say there are 4 sets of apps really that you want to... in any business. You've got the stuff that deals with your stuff, so your inventory, your procurement, your property management, that sort of stuff. There's the stuff that touches your customers, your loyalty, your POS, your what's the other one? Tips, kind of. Well, tips are more us. You've got your finance, which may have a BI layer on it, and then there's the stuff that touch your people. And we'll sort of say, we'll do all the people stuff, but we'll talk to all the others. Yeah. Because you've got useful, hey, Mr. POS, you've got useful information for me that's going to make my people. So if you know who's selling what when, I'd like to be able to present that to sort of say, hey, this is your best server for upselling wine. That, like, I need that information because I'm using it in a different context than the POS guy who's saying this, how much margin you're making on your wine, for instance.
And I suppose your argument is you've got the traffic, right? You're like the Google.
Yeah,
because you have the traffic. So I remember very well you said about people going 3-4 times a day. The old joke when I used to run restaurants was, where is everyone standing in front of the rota? So if they went on the floor, they generally gathered around an Excel sheet on the wall going, can't believe it, he's put me on a Tuesday again, type thing. That was, it was like the water cooler type conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody gathered around the rota. It was like this holy thing on the wall.
But it's interesting, actually, because we now have all of that electronic. It's on your phone. It's on your... One of the key questions we get asked is, how do I print it off? You know, because and that's
never change them.
And people will sort of, because they trust you. They know where it is every time. Like, there's 5 other places they can go look, but I like looking at it there. And then after a time, they find it. It was like when
we used to have to laminate them because everyone kept drawing on them and changing their shifts. And so it was, well, they're creative people. Operations people will find a way. It's fascinating. What about agentic AI? Is very different, isn't it, to where we were with generative AI?
Generative and agentic AI. It's all really one. It's under one umbrella, you know, which is what we call the modern version of AI using LLMs. The old AI, I suppose, was more predictive and it was using like traditional machine learning. A lot of it is but both of them, to be honest, are huge data sets and they complement each other in lots of ways. But certainly the older one, I say it old, it's actually really not that old. You know?
2 years.
12 weeks. Exactly. That's what it's like at the moment,
You know, that was a hugely successful, and it still is. And even in these days, you know, using predictive AI is as good as using generative AI. Yeah. The difference is that there are much larger data sets that you can use. The tools that you can have, it's much quicker at building it as well. But to be honest with you, you know, either one is as good as the other.
But also it's powering data that wasn't previously powered, if that makes sense.
And
because I can add stuff now and get it really quick and make a nice report within seconds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, where you would have gotten huge amount of insights, you know, from some of those and the way it's configured with the old kind of machine learning tools, you know, using LLMs, it goes beyond insights. You know, you're talking about it actually actions things as well. Like there's extra things and layers on top of it because it is using neural networks. It's a completely different style to these single pipelines that you have to build for machine learning and creating your repository where you're going to, you know, generate all of the different models out of that. Instead, with LLMs, you've got so many different types of these neural networks, if I can say the word right. It's a tongue twister. And, you know, from there, then you start building out like hundreds of thousands of different types of models that then come back in and work together. And because you've got that richness in data, well, sure, look, you know, it makes things way more accurate, you know, and while the old stuff is still very accurate, and I think we should still really...
I feel like you're talking about my generation. But these guys are still quite useful.
It's my generation too. That's why I'm very passionate about it.
Don't put them out to grass yet.
Definitely not yet. And it is cheaper. And that's one thing that we need to be very, very mindful of. It doesn't waste as much water as...
I just feel like you're explaining me all the time now. But and if there's one piece, between the two of you here, there's one piece of data that you could kind of, that we should give back to the operators that they probably didn't have. They probably had it but didn't surface it before. Is there one particular piece data set that you think you may have talked about before actually when you were talking about retention?
I think it's around workforce engagement and productivity. That's really what we should be focusing on right now. So you look at things like feedback, engagement scores, feedback and performance and attendance. That gives you such a richness in terms of how engaged your employees actually are.
Basically see John the waiter from a different. Obviously, you like him and whatever you hired him, and you have a gut feeling about him, but you see him as a bit of a bigger picture because you've got almost like, it sounds really terrible, but like you imagine like a neon score above his head as he's wandering around the restaurant. But that's something we never had before.
Exactly. But instead of you just seeing all these different bar charts and pie charts, which again you have to interpret. And if you have 5 people sitting beside each other, they're going to interpret that differently. What you want is someone, which is our AI friend, to come along and do it for you, and tell you whether that person has a high or low score, and whether they're a burnout risk or a staff turnover risk or anything like that. And we know that that's where the cost is.
Like an early warning signal.
It's an early warning signal. It's where you're seeing the cost of keeping staff, of keeping good staff, of having the right skills at the right times. That's where the focus needs to be, and it is for a huge amount of businesses as well. So that's where I think we need to be giving back more to our customers.
But also adding to that it's the pointers for coaching, because there aren't that many bad people in the world, like people who are lazy.
Most people get out of bed and want to do it.
Most people want to do things, but sometimes they just can't, or they're not quite sure what to do, or they're whatever. And actually, this comes back to the human intervention. If you've got that, do you know what? For Chris is going to need it's like the old, what was it, Alex Ferguson in the dressing room. There were people who needed a kick in the ass, and there were people who needed a pat on the ass. It was literally that way. Because that'll be the motivator that'll drive them.
Nobody tells about the Irish, though.
And their personality, sorry.
No, don't never apologise.
But bring their personality and make them love their job. And that's really what it's all about,
It is quite exciting, like potentially a bit of a key to unlock, because I do feel like hospitality's been stuck in the doldrums. And I can say this because I was there, man. But, it's been stuck in the doldrums for a while. I feel like in terms of, it's felt like walking through treacle a little bit, even with the tech that's been around for the last 10 years. I feel like it's been harder. I'm talking from a experience point of view, because I feel like we haven't been able to grease the wheels and let them go. And I do think this moment potentially with what's happening with AI, that actually a lot of the crap we've had to kind of crawl, like doing an appraisal, for instance, in my old world was a pain in the backside. And you didn't want to do it because it was just a massive paper trail. No one wanted to sit there. No one wanted to. So doing it in a way that's a lot more intuitive, that the voice feels like it's with the waiter rather than with the manager, that kind of stuff, and being able to enable it is, I think, will just make things go a lot quicker. In terms of better experience. But
for absolutely everybody.
Like I can even see it in my own business or in my own team. Just the speed at which the team has progressed in the last year.
We've just plugged in Claude to Slack and to Google Drive and to Gmail, and it's got an Aztec on Toast. So we've got a group. It's called Co-Work. Mm-hmm. So we just got this Aztec on Toast, and we ask it anything, and it searches all of our company. So stuff when you're on Slack, who's got that logo? Whatever it might be. So that kind of stuff. But more, I suppose, I was looking for a product PMS today, and it brought me the stuff I'd written 2 years ago. I was like, oh my God, I forgot I'd even written that. It is fascinating what it's going to do to the team, and actually for a new starter to come into a business and be able to say, hey, what does ZZ's do? What's the menu like? It being able to have an overlay potentially is internally insane. But what do you actually want to kind of get to by the end of, let's talk another end of 2020, where are we? 6 are we in?
26.
Thanks. End of 27, kind of, is it a total, this prosumer model? Will we see that live in the next month, 2 months, 3 months?
Oh yeah, no problem. In the last 12 months since I've been, so we've totally focused on our workforce management with a little bit of time off and a little bit of HR. But now the focus is to bring in that HR element, and it's to marry the two in a really holistic way so that it works across the board. And you don't have them as separate tools; they're all one. It's an all in operations. Of course, AI matters here, but even coming back to what we said earlier as well, AI is just the tool. It's the way to get there. It's how we simplify the process for people, and how we need to think about the best way to present the product in the first place. So that's what we're really focusing in on. We're building out a new UI, a new UX all of that alongside of our AI, and that's the main focus for us over the next 6 to 12 months. We obviously don't want to completely change our product because lots of our customers love it as it is.
Yep.
So
If it ain't broke.
Exactly, and you've got to be so careful, like, not to do that. And how many wonderful apps have we used in the past that the minutes, as you have alluded to with your son, have they seen this big modern change to make to bring a business into the 21st century.
It is very exciting.
It's very exciting. And I've got a question here, a random one. Something about Bono.
No, the Bono,
So you've had some famous backers over the years, Conor. One of them being Bono. Is this true?
Yes, it is true. Actually,
For the kids, he's a lead singer from U2.
Yeah. He's so the sort of backstory there is that Gerard's partner in a company called Nude Cafes in Dublin was a gentleman called Norman Hewson, and Norman is famous because he's Bono's older brother. And actually Bono was an investor.
Famous by association.
Famous by association. And he was an investor in Nude Cafes as well. And then when Norman and Gerard were putting Bizimply together, Bono said, all right, that sounds like a great idea. I'll give you some help with that. And so in the very, very early stages, he helped us.
Is he still involved?
No. Well, he's still a shareholder.
I'd have him on the website if it was me.
But I mean, that's a good idea. That's his brand, and we're beyond that. We're very much now like. I don't think we've even had a conversation with his office in the last couple of years. And he's probably nearly forgotten that he has.
To be fair, I saw him at Wembley in the 90s. He didn't mention you, but...
Well, that would have been before time. But we did, and Gerard got to a few concerts. We got to a few concerts back in the day.
Okay, well,
but now it's very much, and Emily alluded to this, our customers dictate our roadmap.
Yeah.
Our customers tell us what we should be doing. And sometimes they ask us to do things and we say, I know why you're asking that, but that's not actually what you need. And we'll work with them to give them that little bit of extra. It's a bit like the old Henry
So it's
Ford.
fairly consultative in terms of, if a customer's got a request, it's like, understand why, flip it if you have to, and to kind of explain what it might look like in a product sense going back to
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. That's the only way, I think that's the only way to build product nowadays.
And even it's not even so much it's about a conversation where a customer will tell you what they need. It's about us sitting down and watching them use the tool and understanding their processes from that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how people use things differently to what you built it as.
Exactly.
And when people backdoor stuff, you're like, why would it do that?
Yeah,
and because that's what we've always done.
It might be something that they have forgotten to mention to us, but actually it's a fundamental thing that we need to know so that that we can add.
I find that bit fascinating.
Yeah,
Must be,
so
as a
it's
product
really
person,
important.
seeing the way people use your product you've sweated over and built, and then they use it in an entire different way. You're like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
In out, I'm sure that kind of works as it is. I'm not really sure you can get that one wrong.
Yeah, but it's interesting on the in out, because what we do is when you press in, it takes a photograph of you.
Right.
And we recently have this person was on TikTok.
They're doing. Don't tell me they were doing before and afters, were they?
And they were doing their clocking in every day.
Yeah.
And we asked this girl, and she was a dancer in a club in Prague, and she came back to us, and she's 1 million followers or something. This girl, and she's doing Bizimply every day on TikTok, and she says it's because it gives me my boost of confidence, because she puts a funny face on every time when she's clocking in.
I'll have to follow her. That's
and
weird.
it is. I mean,
you're not following her on TikTok?
No, I'm not allowed.
but I was just because I was imagining someone. Do you get your photo taken on the way out or not?
Yeah, you will get before and after.
That'd be on a match day,
and that's there to sort of prevent buddy punching.
Yes, yeah.
Too much. It's a degree of control, but it's not really. But make it a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's become something. It's become something far more than it was originally intended to be.
Brilliant.
And let it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll start for you if you want. I'll get myself in and out for the guys, and we'll start.
Absolutely.
Maybe Grace will have more followers than me, but we'll see. That was the Tech and Toast podcast, everyone. Thank you very much, Emily, for coming. Lovely to meet you.
You.
Thank you, Connor. Nice to see you
Chris.
again. And we'll see you all next week.